On the distant planet Cryonar, the sun set in a blaze of purple and gold, casting long shadows over the training grounds of the Cryonarian Defense Forces, KDF. Here, amidst the harsh, jagged terrain, recruits of various shapes and sizes were put through rigorous drills, preparing for conflicts that spanned the far reaches of the galaxy. Amidst them was Zilth, whose slender frame and unsteady gait marked him as the odd one out in a crowd of more robust and confident warriors. Zilth struggled with the physical demands of training. Each leap and sprint seemed to push his lean body to its limits, often leaving him gasping for breath on the dusty red soil. His attempts at combat maneuvers often ended in tumbles, drawing laughter and scorn from his peers. The trainers, large and imposing figures clad in the deep black armor of the KDF, rarely offered him more than a cursory glance, dismissing his faltering efforts with a shake of their heads. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of training, Zilth sat alone on a low wall that bordered the training grounds, nursing a bruised elbow and a bruised ego. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, and the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky. It was then that Captain Varix approached him, his shadow falling long and foreboding over the young recruit. "Zilth, why do you persist?" Captain Varix's voice was rough like gravel, and it carried an unexpected gentleness. "You know the others don't think you'll make it. Even I have my doubts." Zilth looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of resolve and resignation. "I know I'm not the strongest or the fastest," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But there has to be something more than strength that makes a soldier. I must find it, for my sake and the honor of my family." Captain Varix studied him for a moment, the starlight glinting off his bald head. "Perhaps," he conceded. "But remember, the galaxy cares little for honor. It values survival and strength. If you can't find your place here, the battlefield is far less forgiving." The next day brought no reprieve for Zilth. Assigned to a squad known for being made up of the lowest-ranking recruits, he faced a new barrage of challenges. Their task was to simulate a defense against a hostile invasion, a scenario played out in the rough terrain that surrounded their base. Zilth's squad, composed of other misfits and underachievers, bumbled through the exercise, their lack of coordination and skill evident as they repeatedly failed their objectives. As the exercise came to a chaotic close, with Zilth's squad embarrassingly outperformed by a rival team, Sergeant Krell, their grizzled overseer, pulled them aside. His face was a mask of disappointment and frustration. "I've seen many recruits come and go," he barked, his voice echoing off the nearby rocks. "But you lot might be the sorriest group yet. If you don't shape up, you'll be nothing but cannon fodder." That night, under the cold light of Cryonar's smaller moon, Zilth lay awake in his barracks, the sergeant's words ringing in his ears. The soft snores of his squadmates were small comfort. He felt a deep, gnawing fear that perhaps he didn't belong here after all. But amid the doubt, a small, stubborn spark of defiance flickered within him. He wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He would find his strength, however hidden it might be, and prove that he was more than what they saw. Little did he know that the opportunity to prove himself would come sooner than he thought, in ways he could never have anticipated. The new day on Cryonar rose with its usual splendor, but for Zilth, the dawn brought no new hopes, just the dread of another day proving himself in an environment where he felt increasingly alienated. However, the routine of the morning was abruptly shattered when the base's alarms wailed into the cold morning air, a sound that sent shivers down the spine of every soldier, experienced and new alike. The base, usually a hub of controlled chaos and noise, fell eerily silent for a moment as the reality of the situation sank in. Zilth, along with his squad, was hurriedly marshaled towards the main assembly area where the base commander, a stern vizier from the northern clans of Cryonar, was already barking orders over the clamor of soldiers gearing up. The vizier's voice cut through the confusion. "Attention! This is not a drill! The Zethurian Empire has launched a surprise invasion of Earth. Due to our proximity, we are the first response team." A murmur of disbelief spread through the troops. Earth was known to be a technologically backward planet, hardly worth a glance from the major powers of the galaxy. What could the Zethurians want with such a primitive world? The squad leaders began distributing mission briefs, and Zilth's unit was assigned to a secondary transport ship, designated for immediate departure. The hurried preparations were a blur for Zilth as he double-checked his equipment, the weight of his armor suddenly feeling all too real and heavy on his shoulders. As their transport descended towards Earth, Zilth peered through the small view portal, catching glimpses of the blue and green planet below. His heart pounded not just with fear, but also a strange excitement. This was his first real mission, and despite his doubts, he couldn't help but feel a surge of adrenaline. The possibility of actual combat loomed ahead, and with it, the opportunity to find his place in the KDF or die trying. The landing was rough, jarring everyone aboard as they touched down in a secluded part of a dense forest, far from where the main battle was expected to be. But the Zethurians were not underestimating Earth, as they had dispatched scout squads to even these remote areas. Almost immediately, Zilth's squad was under fire. Chaos erupted as the soldiers scrambled out of the transport. Zilth felt a surge of panic but managed to follow his training, taking cover behind the thick trunk of an earth tree. Laser blasts seared the air around them, the sounds unnervingly close. The squad's return fire was frantic and disorganized until Sergeant Krell managed to rally them. "Form up! Covering fire and flanks, move!" Zilth, heart pounding, found himself following a pair of soldiers, moving from tree to tree, trying to flank the enemy. His previous failures at the academy seemed to melt away as he focused solely on the task at hand. His senses sharpened, and he began to make out the positions of the Zethurian scouts through the underbrush. Whispering a quick location update to his comrades, he felt a flicker of pride. He was contributing, truly contributing, for the first time. The skirmish was intense but brief. Zilth and his squad managed to push back the Zethurian scouts, a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. As they regrouped, Sergeant Krell gave them a grudging nod. "Not bad for a bunch of misfits. Let's keep moving." As they penetrated deeper into the forest, preparing to meet up with Allied forces, Zilth felt a change within himself. The battle had sparked something in him, a sense of purpose he had never felt in training. Perhaps, on this strange, beautiful Earth, he could finally show that he was not just a weak link, but a soldier with something unique to offer. Little did he know his true test was just on the horizon, one that would challenge not just his skills, but the very core of his spirit. After the initial skirmish, Zilth's squad continued to push deeper into the dense forest that enveloped them in a seemingly endless sea of green. The further they moved from their landing point, the more Zilth felt the isolation of this foreign planet. Earth's vibrant wild nature was unlike anything on Cryonar, with its sounds and smells overwhelming his senses, making him acutely aware of his alien surroundings. The squad's orders were to rendezvous with a larger coalition force, but navigation was proving difficult. The handheld devices struggled with Earth's atmospheric conditions, frequently losing signal. It was during one of these outages, as the squad attempted to recalibrate their location, that they stumbled into an ambush. A sudden burst of gunfire erupted from all sides, and the squad scattered in panic. Zilth, dodging behind a large tree, found himself separated from his group, his heart pounding in his ears. As he crouched, trying to make sense of the chaos, a human figure suddenly appeared from the bushes, weapon raised. For a tense moment, their eyes met, fear mirrored in both gazes, and then, unexpectedly, the human lowered his weapon. "Hold fire! He's not one of them!" shouted another human voice emerging from the underbrush. A small group of human resistance fighters cautiously approached Zilth. They were ragged but determined. Their leader, a woman with striking eyes and a commanding presence, addressed him directly. "Alien, who are you with?" Zilth, still processing the abrupt shift in circumstances, quickly decided to trust them. "Cryonarian Defense Forces," he replied, his voice steady. "I'm separated from my unit. We're here to fight the Zethurians." The woman nodded, her expression hardening. "I'm Captain Jenna Miles of the Earth Resistance. We're fighting for our planet's survival. If you're truly against the Zethurians, then help us." The necessity for allies in this unfamiliar terrain was undeniable, and soon Zilth found himself accompanying the humans back to their makeshift camp, hidden beneath a camouflaged netting among thick foliage. Here, he was introduced to more fighters. all wary but welcoming enough when they understood he was also an enemy of these Ithurians. In the hours that followed, Zilth learned a great deal about the humans and their guerrilla tactics. Despite their technological disadvantages, the humans showed a cleverness in combat that impressed him. They utilized the forest's natural resources, setting traps and ambushes that utilized the terrain to their advantage. As he shared his own knowledge of advanced alien technology and tactics, Zilth began to feel a growing sense of camaraderie. For the first time, he was not seen as the weakest link, but as a valuable contributor. He trained with the humans, learning to move quietly through the underbrush, to listen to the subtle shifts in the forest sounds, a skill he'd never had cause to use on the barren fields of Cryonar. That night, around a low-burning fire, Captain Miles shared more of their plans to disrupt a major Zethurian supply route that passed close to their camp. "With your intel, we might just have a shot at taking them down," she said, looking to Zilth with something akin to respect. Zilth felt a swell of pride. Here on Earth, he wasn't just a soldier, he was a vital part of a team, and for the first time he felt truly necessary. His unique ability to sense vibrations, a trait considered minor on Cryonar, proved useful in detecting approaching enemies, giving their group an edge. As they finalized their plans for the attack, Zilth realized that he had stumbled into the role he was meant to play. No longer the weakest, he was a bridge between worlds, between species, and potentially a key to victory for this unlikely alliance. Tomorrow's battle would be a crucial test, but for now, under the stars of an alien sky, Zilth felt a sense of belonging that had eluded him all his life. With the dawn barely breaking through the thick canopy of Earth's ancient forest, Zilth and the human resistance fighters prepared for the assault on the Zethurian supply route. Their plan was simple, yet risky. Hit the convoy hard and fast, using the element of surprise, and retreat before the enemy could mount a significant counterattack. Zilth, dressed in a mishmash of human and cryonarian gear, felt a newfound confidence as he checked his equipment. Over the past few days, he had bonded with the human fighters, learning their names, their stories, and their reasons for fighting. They had accepted him not just as an ally, but as one of their own. In turn, he shared more about his world and why the KDF had intervened on Earth. As the group moved out, Captain Miles assigned Zilth to the forward scout team due to his enhanced sensory abilities. His role was critical: detect the vibrations of the approaching convoy and give the signal to ambush. They moved stealthily through the undergrowth, reaching their positions just as the first light filtered through the trees. Hidden behind a dense thicket, Zilth focused intently, closing his eyes to better sense the subtle tremors. After a few tense moments, he felt the unmistakable vibrations of heavy vehicles rolling in the distance. He signaled to Captain Miles, who coordinated the fighters into position. The attack was a blur of motion and noise. As the convoy neared, the resistance fighters sprung from their hiding spots, launching rockets and opening fire. Zilth, adrenaline surging, took part in the firefight, his previous combat training kicking in. He was no longer the clumsy recruit. He was a soldier fighting not only for Cryonar, but for Earth as well. The Zethurians were caught off guard, their vehicles taking heavy damage as they scrambled to return fire. Amidst the chaos, Zilth noticed a group of enemy soldiers flanking to the right, attempting to encircle them. Utilizing his training, he quickly organized a small team to counter the maneuver. They moved silently, using the forest to their advantage, and managed to cut off the enemy soldiers, preventing the encirclement. The firefight lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. When the smoke cleared, the convoy was devastated, supplies burning and several enemy vehicles disabled. The resistance fighters had suffered casualties, but the mission was a success. They quickly retreated into the forest, disappearing into the foliage before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Back at the camp, Captain Miles praised the team for their effectiveness. "Today we struck a significant blow," she announced, her voice filled with both pride and solemnity due to the loss they had suffered. Her eyes met Zilth's and she nodded in gratitude. "You saved lives today, Zilth. Your actions turned the tide." That evening, as Zilth sat by the campfire reflecting on the day's events, he was approached by a young fighter named Eli, who had been skeptical of him at first. I have to admit I didn't think much of you when you first showed up, Eli confessed, handing Zilth a warm drink. But watching you out there, sensing the enemy's movements and leading us against that flank, you're one of us now, no doubt about it. Zilth smiled, the warmth from the fire matching the warmth he felt inside. He realized that he had more than just survived. He had thrived. By embracing his unique abilities and integrating into this new team, he had found a strength he didn't know he possessed. As he looked around at the faces illuminated by the firelight, he didn't see humans or an alien anymore. He saw comrades, brothers and sisters in arms, united by a common cause. That night, under the stars of an alien world, Zilth no longer felt like the weakest soldier. He was a vital part of a resistance that had just proven its ability to change the course of their struggle. The next steps were uncertain, and the war was far from over, but Zilth knew that together they could face whatever came next. After their triumphant raid on the Zathurian supply route, morale in the resistance camp soared. The success of their guerrilla tactics, bolstered by Zilth's contributions, resonated not just through their small group, but also across the wider network of Earth's resistance movements. Word of their victory spread, and soon messages of solidarity and requests for coordination came pouring in from other cells around the planet. Captain Miles, seeing the potential for a larger coordinated effort, decided to capitalize on the momentum. With Zilth's help, they began planning a series of similar strikes, aiming to systematically dismantle the Zathurian logistical network on Earth. Zilth, now recognized as a tactical asset, was at the center of these plans. His unique sensory abilities and his understanding of alien technology provided the human fighters with a significant advantage. Meanwhile, news of the successful guerrilla tactics employed by Zilth and the Earth Resistance reached the higher echelons of the Cryonarian defense forces. Intrigued and somewhat surprised by the effectiveness of these unconventional strategies, the KDF command decided to reassess their approach to the conflict. A high-ranking officer was dispatched to Earth to observe and potentially integrate these tactics into the broader coalition strategy. The officer, General Tharek, arrived at the resistance camp with a small contingent of Cryonarian soldiers. Zilth, initially apprehensive about how his superiors would view his integration into the human resistance, was surprised to find General Tharek open and appreciative of his efforts. "Your reports have been most enlightening, Soldier Zilth," Tharek remarked during their first meeting. "It appears you have uncovered a strategy that could turn the tide in this conflict." Under General Tharek's guidance, Zilth helped to train both Cryonarian and human forces in the tactics that had proven successful. They worked on refining these methods, combining advanced alien technology with the guerrilla warfare techniques developed by the humans. This synergy quickly proved its value as subsequent operations disrupted the Zathurian efforts more significantly than any conventional engagements had. One of the largest operations planned was an ambush on a critical Zathurian communications hub. If successful, it would not only cripple their operational capabilities, but also send a clear message to the Zathurian command. Earth was not a planet that would fall easily. Zilth was tasked with leading the reconnaissance team that would pinpoint the exact location of the hub. The mission was perilous, involving deep infiltration into enemy territory. The night before the operation, as the team prepared their equipment, Zilth felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Captain Miles, noticing his concern, clapped him on the shoulder. "You've got this, Zilth. You've shown us all what you're capable of. Now just one more push." The operation commenced under the cover of darkness. Zilth and his team, using stealth suits, moved silently through the enemy defenses. Thanks to Zilth's ability to detect vibrations, they avoided patrols and navigated through the treacherous terrain. Finally, they located the communications hub, heavily guarded but vulnerable to a well-planned assault. Returning to the base with the crucial intel, Zilth and the combined forces prepared for the full-scale attack. As dawn broke, the assault began. It was a fierce battle with heavy casualties on both sides, but the tactics developed by Zilth and the humans proved superior. The communications hub was destroyed, throwing the Zathurian forces into disarray. As they regrouped at the camp, celebrating their hard-fought victory, General Tharek addressed the troops, praising their bravery and innovation. "Today we've not just achieved a tactical victory," he proclaimed. "We have changed the nature of this war. Thanks to the bravery and ingenuity of fighters like Zilth and Captain Miles, we have a fighting chance." Zilth stood beside Captain Miles, their camaraderie evident to all. He had started as the weakest link in his unit, underestimated by everyone, including himself. But now, he was a key figure in a revolution that was reshaping the war on Earth. The road ahead was still fraught with danger, but Zilth knew they were no longer fighting a losing battle. They were turning the tides, one victory at a time. The destruction of the Zathurian communications hub marked a pivotal shift in the war on Earth. The success of the operation fueled a surge of optimism among the coalition forces and the human resistance, fostering a newfound sense of unity and determination. In the wake of their victory, General Tharek, inspired by the effectiveness of the guerrilla tactics, proposed an even more ambitious plan, a coordinated series of strikes targeting key Zathurian strongholds across the planet. Zilth, now regarded as a strategic asset, was heavily involved in the planning stages. He worked alongside Captain Miles and General Tharek, blending his sensory abilities and tactical acumen with the humans' intimate knowledge of the terrain. Together, they mapped out a campaign that would stretch the Zathurian forces thin, exploiting their now crippled communication lines. The plan was to launch simultaneous attacks on 3 major Zathurian bases. These bases were strategic linchpins for the Zathurians, serving as command centers, supply depots, and troop billets. Disabling them would severely disrupt enemy operations, giving the resistance and the coalition forces a substantial advantage. As the coalition forces prepared for the assault, Zilth took charge of one of the strike teams. His squad, composed of both Cryonarian soldiers and Earth resistance fighters, had grown to respect and follow him without question. The night before the operation, he addressed his team, his voice steady and reassuring. "We've come a long way together. Tomorrow we strike not just for victory but for our future. Trust in each other and we will succeed." The assault was timed to coincide with the rise of Earth's twin moons, providing just enough light for the operation without compromising their stealth. Zilth's team was tasked with infiltrating a base located in the rugged highlands, a fortress rumored to be impenetrable. The approach was treacherous, the steep cliffs and rocky terrain posing as much a threat as the enemy soldiers. Using grappling gear and the cover of darkness, Zilth and his team ascended the cliffs, their movements silent. Zilth's ability to sense vibrations was crucial, allowing them to avoid Zathurian patrols and automated defense systems. Upon reaching the top, they quickly and quietly neutralized the outer guards, using a combination of stealth takedowns and silenced weapons. As the coordinated attacks commenced on the other bases, Zilth's team blew a hole in the fortress wall, breaching the base with explosives that were carefully planted. What followed was intense close-quarters combat. Zilth led from the front, directing his team with precision. Every corridor and room cleared brought them closer to their objective, the central command center. Meanwhile, at the other bases, the coalition forces engaged in fierce battles. Reports filtered in over the comms of heavy resistance, but also significant victories. The simultaneous attacks had caught the Zathurians off guard, their response hampered by the lack of a central command, still reeling from the destruction of their communications hub. Back at the Highland base, Zilth and his team secured the command center, capturing key Zathurian officers and seizing critical intelligence data. The mission was a resounding success. As dawn broke, the base was under complete control of the coalition forces with minimal casualties. The aftermath of the Great Assault was a turning point in the war. With 3 major Zathurian bases in ruins, their hold on Earth began to crumble. General Tharek, speaking to the coalition leaders and troops, hailed the operation as a masterstroke of military strategy and bravery. Zilth stood among his team, tired but triumphant. The respect and camaraderie he felt from his comrades, both human and Cryonarian, was a far cry from his early days as the weakest link. They had achieved more than just a tactical victory. They had shifted the balance of power, paving the way for a future where Earth might finally be free from Zathurian oppression. As they prepared for the next phase of the war, Zilth knew that together they were unstoppable. In the aftermath of the triumphant operation that crippled key Zathurian bases, the coalition forces were energized, sensing that the tide of the war was decisively turning in their favor. Zilth, having been instrumental in the planning and execution of the critical assaults, found himself at the heart of this newfound momentum. From a doubted recruit to a respected strategist, his journey had become a source of inspiration across the ranks. With the Zathurian forces in disarray and their communications still severely disrupted, the coalition planned to maintain pressure with continuous strikes, exploiting every sign of weakness. General Theric and Captain Miles, recognizing Zilth's unique contributions, involved him in high-level strategy discussions, aiming to leverage his tactical insights to the fullest. During one such strategy session, intelligence reports revealed that the Zathurian regional commander, responsible for overseeing their operations on Earth, had been located in a heavily fortified area. Capturing or eliminating him could potentially end Zathurian resistance and hasten the liberation of Earth. The task was daunting, given the defenses surrounding the commander, but the symbolic and strategic value of such a mission was immense. Zilth proposed a bold plan, drawing on all his experiences with guerrilla warfare and direct assaults. He suggested a two-pronged attack. A diversionary force would engage the enemy frontally, drawing their forces out, while a smaller elite team led by him would infiltrate the base to target the commander directly. As the plans were set in motion, Zilth felt a mix of excitement and solemnity. This mission was not just another battle, it was a culmination of all his efforts, and a chance to truly turn the war in their favor. The night before the mission, he met privately with his team, a mix of Cryonarian soldiers and Earth resistance fighters who had come to look up to him. "We have a chance to make a real difference tomorrow," Zilth addressed his team, his voice steady despite the gravity of their task. "Let's bring this fight home, for Earth, for Cryonar, and for all who have suffered under Zathurian rule." The day of the operation dawned clear and bright, an anomaly on the often cloudy Earth, which seemed to mirror the high stakes of their mission. As the diversionary attacks began, Zilth's team used the chaos as cover, slipping through enemy lines with the precision and stealth that had become their hallmark. Navigating through the fortified area, Zilth's heightened senses once again proved invaluable. He detected subtle shifts in the enemy's movements, allowing his team to avoid patrols and navigate complex security systems. They reached the central compound where the Zathurian commander was believed to be located, breaching the perimeter with tactical precision. Inside, they encountered fierce resistance. The Zathurians, realizing the critical nature of the assault, fought desperately. Zilth, leading from the front, showcased his combat skills, refined through countless skirmishes and battles. His team moved like a well-oiled machine, their trust in Zilth and each other clear in their coordinated maneuvers. The confrontation with the Zathurian commander happened swiftly. The commander, a seasoned warrior, was no easy target, but Zilth's strategic mind and the sheer determination of his team overwhelmed him. In a tense and brutal encounter, they managed to subdue the commander, securing him for extraction. As they returned to the coalition forces, the impact of their success became immediately apparent. The capture of the Zathurian commander sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks, sapping their morale and disrupting their chain of command. Celebrations erupted among the coalition troops, with Zilth being hoisted onto shoulders as a hero who had turned the tide of the war. The victory was more than military. It was symbolic. It marked the decline of Zathurian dominance and a significant step towards peace. Zilth, once the weakest link in his unit, had not only found his strength, but had risen as a beacon of hope and resilience. His journey resonated across Cryonar and Earth, embodying the possibility that anyone, no matter how underestimated, could change the course of history. As the dust settled on the battlefield, the significance of capturing the Zathurian commander became fully realized. The once dominant invaders' command structure was left floundering without their leader, leading to disarray and retreat across their forces stationed on Earth. Zilth, now heralded as a hero by both the Cryonarian and Earth forces, found himself at the center of a rapidly changing war landscape. In the days following the victory, peace negotiations began. Earth's governments, alongside representatives from the Cryonarian Defense Forces and other coalition members, sat down to discuss terms with the now cooperative Ixathurians. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. The discussions were long and fraught with challenges, yet the presence of figures like Zilth, who symbolized the bravery and strategic brilliance of the coalition efforts, provided a grounding reminder of what was gained through unity and perseverance. Zilth's role in the negotiations was primarily advisory, but his insights into both human and Xathurian combat strategies proved invaluable. He helped to broker agreements that prioritized Earth's sovereignty and ensured that the planet would not face such threats in the future. His input helped to shape the reconstruction efforts that would soon follow, focusing on rebuilding the cities affected by the war and fostering a new era of interstellar cooperation. During this time, Zilth also took on a new role, that of a liaison between Earth and Cryonar. His unique position as a hero of both worlds allowed him to bridge cultural gaps and misunderstandings, facilitating a smoother transition into the post-war period. His days were filled with meetings, speeches, and sessions where he shared his story, a tale of overcoming doubt and embracing one's unique abilities for the greater good. Captain Miles, who had fought alongside Zilth through many battles, continued to lead her people on Earth, overseeing the integration of advanced technologies that the Cryonarians shared to boost Earth's defenses and infrastructure. Together they attended many public events, their partnership a symbol of the enduring alliance between their people. One such event was the inauguration of the new Earth Cryonar Cultural Exchange Center, located in one of the cities that had been a battleground during the war. Zilth and Captain Miles stood side by side as the center was unveiled, a testament to the resilience and unity that had grown from the conflict. The center would not only serve as a museum and memorial, but also as an educational facility where Earth citizens could learn about the wider galaxy, and visitors from other planets could learn about Earth. During the ceremony, Zilth gave a speech that touched the hearts of many. He spoke of the days when he felt he had no place in the galaxy, of the battles that had forged bonds stronger than steel, and of the future he now envisioned, a future where no being felt insignificant or overlooked. "Today, we stand not just as survivors, but as architects of our future," Zilth proclaimed, his voice resonant with emotion. "From the ashes of war, we build bridges of understanding and cooperation. Let this center be a beacon of hope and a reminder that even the smallest voice can speak volumes in the symphony of the universe." As the applause echoed around the plaza, Zilth felt a profound sense of accomplishment and belonging. The medals and honors he had received paled in comparison to the sight of so many diverse beings gathered in peace and friendship. The war had changed Zilth, just as it had changed the world. From a reluctant recruit to a celebrated hero, his journey was a beacon for anyone doubting their place in the world. Looking around at the hopeful faces, Zilth realized that this was only the beginning. A new chapter was starting, both for him and for Earth, and he was ready to meet it with the same courage and determination that had brought him this far. As the inaugural festivities of the New Earth Cryonar Cultural Exchange Center came to a close, Zilth found himself reflecting on the long journey that had brought him to this point. He walked through the quiet streets of the city, the buildings around him patched and repaired, standing as silent testaments to the resilience of its inhabitants. The night was cool, and the stars shone brightly above, a constant reminder of the vast, unexplored galaxy that awaited.